Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. I talk a lot about prejudice and about lifestyle discrimination. And I ran into something this morning while negotiating with selling my art that made me realize what it means to beat at a different wavelength. So I had listed, I think it was on Facebook Marketplace, a Buddha that I had poured out of bismuth, anodized, multicolor, and I discussed a little bit about how rare bismuth is, and I got a prospective buyer who called me and asked, he likes the Buddha, he doesn't mind that the color, so he asked if there was a cheaper material I could pour the Buddha out of. And I thought about it and I realized there really isn't anything cheaper. It's a silicone mold. You can't pour zinc or aluminum into it. It only goes up to, I believe, 300 degrees Celsius. And then I thought about all the metals that melt at 300 or lower, and they're all more expensive than bismuth. What immediately comes to mind is obviously either tin or antimony. They're much more expensive than bismuth. I suppose in theory you could use lead. I don't want to mess with it again. And then you would have to give it a coating of something else so that it would be safe to touch. So that would take a lot more effort, obviously. And so I thought about it, and I didn't want to tell him that because I didn't want to give him the impression that bismuth is cheap or anything. And I thought about it, and there really isn't anything cheaper I could use. I mean, in normal times, tin is normally cheaper than bismuth, historically. We live in a very unusual time, that's for sure. But then it reminded me of how lifestyle discrimination works, right? There are plenty of benefits of being single, especially if you're biologically solosexual. There's definitely a lot of benefits to not mingling with somebody you don't belong with. But we have a society that has a substrate, a societal substrate, that almost forces people to be together and causes a lot of penalties for not being together with somebody, right? And so I feel like a lump of bismuth in a sea of tin, right, in our society. Anyways, a funny analogy that happened today, although I'll maybe think about some other molds that I could use to pour the large Buddha that I could potentially use zinc in, right? I believe I've been reading about some silicone molds that will support zinc. The reason I don't want to use a graphite mold is that it's rigid, right? You can't do these intricate designs on them, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.